Despite a nervous start to election night, the Liberal National Party is expected to form a majority government in Queensland. The victory brings to an end 9 years of a state Labor government. Sky News chief election analyst Connell takes a closer look at the early results.
There were some nervous LNP members at the start of the night, but as the count progressed and pre-poll came in, this swing got bigger and bigger. Let's have a look at where things are as the count stands, with no more counting until Monday. 6% is swing towards the LNP on the primary, basically picking that up off Labor. What that meant for two-party preferred, a big swing in the end. Before we had Labor, of course, with a majority. Now that's going to be the LNPs. When we look at the way the pendulum worked as well, from 53% to Labor, now nearing 55% for the LNP. At stages earlier on in the count, it looked like it could possibly be a minority government, but again, that pre-poll and postal has meant that's not the case. What does the majority look like right now? It's 50 seats for the LNP. They're set to set at about 50 to 51, depending on the rest of the count. There are still 5 undecided. The Greens likely to retain 1. They have lost a seat, though, tonight, so no Green surge. Labor likely to pick up the remaining seats and get to perhaps 37 or 38 seats. Where was it won? Well, right across the state. Heading to the north, Townsville was always going to be an area where Labor were going to lose seats. The question was, would it to be to KAP or to the LNP? In the end, the LNP easily finishing ahead of that minor party. So picking up 3 seats easily there. Moving further south, the Sunshine Coast, the so-called Palaszczuk pensioners that helped Anastasia Palaszczuk keep in office last time around. You can see the seats that the Labor Party last time picked up. They were only small margins. Nicklin, Caloundra, Hervey Bay. And as the votes came in, the LNP moved ahead in many of these seats. So quite a few pickups, albeit a couple of them still looking very tight as the count does continue. To be able to get majority, they needed to go beyond just the regions, though, and also enter Brisbane and take some seats there as well. Suburbs and surrounds, probably the best area for the LNP. Again, you can see some slightly bigger margins here, in particular Redcliffe and Pine Rivers. Again, as that vote came in, though, the LNP moving ahead in some of those seats. So overall, they had to make progress in all of Queensland, and they did, and that's how they got their majority. There are also interesting looks in terms of what about the federal implications? Always a question out of these elections. One of the interesting parts is how the Greens went. This is the federal seat of Brisbane, the Greens hold, and this is how they did in the state overlapping seats. You can see swings against them. Not massive swings, but still swings against them in Brisbane and also Ryan. You can see there's a seat they don't hold by a long way. It's 2.6%. Some of these swings well ahead of that. So perhaps some food for thought for the Greens. Also for Labor, when you think of the seat of Blair, this is the outer suburb seat that the LNP's targeted before. It's part of the Peter Dutton strategy to get the outer suburbs. There are big swings against Labor here, considering that 5.2% margin. But let's not confuse entirely those state and federal issues. This was always going to be the case in terms of some swings. We are still seeing, for example, for the LNP, 60% and 53% in terms of their primary vote in those seats, or two-party preferred votes in those seats. So still clearly not a low vote for them. So there's some of the federal implications. But the important story of the night is the LNP getting to 50, and they will have a majority government.